Hey listeners, welcome to this very special Q&A episode of D20 Dames. I'm so excited to jump into the questions, but first, let's reintroduce our dames.
Hi, I'm Kat Kruger, the DM at D20 Dames. I am also Chief Wordsmith at Steampunk Unicorn Studio, which is a freelance writing studio that I own and operate, and I work with entertainment and gaming clients. And you can find a lot of my work on DM's Guild as well as on my website, steampunkunicornstudio.com.
Hi, I'm Meris Mullaley. I'm a former archaeologist, avid seamstress, and a creative producer on Magic the Gathering, #WotsyStaff. I play a human monk named Rose Lau, and Rose is from a monastery in the Shulung Mountains, where she's been training in the way of the four elements. She's traveled quite a long way to Phandalin, although the maps and wikis available that I have found on the Forgotten Realms don't quite reveal how far away Shulung is, so that detail of her backstory is still a little bit of a mystery to me. If you'd like to actually discuss Forgotten Realms geography and help me figure this out, you can find me online as the Fabric Alchemist.
Hi, my name is Jen Vaughn, and I play Riot, the Tiefling Ranger on D20 Dames. I'm a narrative designer for video games and cartoonist. I wrote Goosebumps Download and Die. It came out earlier this year with Michelle Wong on the art, and I'm the co-creator and artist of Teenage Wasteland with Magdalene Basaggio. You can find me online at the Genya, or you can look at my art at hauntedvaultstudios.com.
Hi, I'm Brittany Lianagay. I am the producer here at D20 Dames. I also occasionally play Sildar Hallwinter, who is first and foremost a dad, and secondarily a human fighter in another life. When I'm not recording with D20 Dames, I am a product and project manager at a startup here in Seattle called Poppy. So we are going to ask each other some questions that we got from listeners over the past couple of weeks, and I'm really excited about that. We don't usually get to do anything like this. We're usually talking in character at Kat.
And usually trying to figure out who's missing, who we need to find, when the racquetball game is.
That's right. There are no missing people in this entire episode. What will our listeners do? They're not going to know what to do.
Only missing answers to their questions.
And we will find them all. Found.
Are we doing the thing where we peel off our character skins and then start talking? No?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. All right, let's get to this.
Start, Jen. Yeah.
I think there might be a couple questions that we were asked for the actual characters, so keep the skin on.
Okay, yeah. Don't toss that away. We might need to bring those.
Cool.
back.
I'll just pull down Riot's face and wear it like a hood. That's not terrifying.
Or wrap yourself around yourself like a mink stole or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Happy Halloween, kids.
Yeah.
I know. This episode brought to you by your nightmares.
Yeah. This will be our scariest one yet, believe it or not.
Good.
There's no fiction at all.
So we've had a couple people ask the same question, but the first one that really kind of asked us on Twitter was from @SabbatFlask or Sabat Flask from Portland, Oregon. And they asked, Kat, this is for you, Kat, so be ready.
All right.
Do you have a rubric for pacing the combat for our podcast episodes so that it presents, actually a believable challenge to us? Or, how do we avoid the slog of combat in our podcast?
So I think this was basically trial and error with the prequel episodes that we recorded. Because when we first started off with In Volo's Wake, there was that mini episode where you were all tasked with finding Lord Merryweather. And I think that was a really good introduction to combat and the things that needed to get edited out. And I think with that combat, we sort of got an idea of how we all played in that sort of narrative. So we worked together. I talked to all of you about how we could drive the narrative forward even during combat. In Volo's Wake also, It's an Adventurers League adventure, so it includes some encounter adjustments for party strength, which I took a look at very carefully as we progressed in the season. And when I write the episodes myself, I do build encounters using the Dungeon Master's guidelines. I think, because of the evolution of the podcast, earlier on, there was a lot more editing by Brittni. But I think we found a pretty good balance between sort of encounter building and narrative to move things along.
Yeah, I think when it comes to editing, the only time I ever took anything out of the combat, like a huge chunk out of the combat, was that very first episode. And I was listening back to it the other day, and I was laughing because we actually had that little disclaimer at the beginning that was like, excuse the interruption, listeners, but the combat gets really slow at this point, so we took it out. Thanks for bearing with us.
I'd actually
back into the action.
That is the second episode.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Second episode. Yeah.
Because
the first stretch. Yeah, the first stretch. It was the blights. Yeah.
Yeah, because have you guys listened to the first episode? Like, holy moly, were we slow? Yeah. Holy jeez. Thanks for sticking with
editing.
us.
That's after editing.
Oh my god.
You guys don't even know.
We barely, sometimes we ask each other questions and then we just start talking about something else. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I am really glad that was like a prequel, but I think we really found our groove with the Tressendor Manor adventure.
And I liked how you already pointed out in your answer that really it was at that first one and continuing as we record episodes. Kat, you do a great job of chatting with us about like, hey, that went kind of slow, or like working with us to figure out how we can role play, how we can improve our role play, how we can understand helping us understand our characters better, so that some of that early hesitation from episodes like 1, 2, and 3 can disappear. But that's what's so normal with every campaign I've ever been in. Those first few games, you're just like, wait, what do I do again? What class am I?
Yeah.
Spell. Spells are what now?
All right, so my pal Jesse Shepard asked via Twitter at "Oh no, it's Jesse." He tweeted all the way from Seattle, Washington, and at us. He says, "Yes, Kat and Brittni, how many podcast episodes do you record in a single play session?"
In a session, we'll probably get about an episode and a half to 2 episodes. It depends on like the story arc. So if we don't want to, it's up to Kat, and it's up to how much time we have to record. But you don't really want to chop off our play session too short. So if we go especially long, maybe it'll be like a half an episode extra. For downtimes, that's just one session and that's just one episode, because we hadn't been cutting those up, which for better or for worse, I mean, they're really long episodes. Listeners have said that they love them, so we'll keep them long and uninterrupted, because there's no combat, there's really nothing like cliffhangery to end any of those on, so I think it's nice that they end up just being a little longer. But for our regular sessions, I would say it's about an episode and a half to 2 episodes.
Yeah. And we record for about 2 hours-ish.
2 hours, which sometimes runs into 2.5, which sometimes runs into 3 hours.
Yeah.
We schedule it for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I feel like we scheduled it for 3, and then we just hope it ends soon.
That's probably right.
Am I wrong? I guess 7:30 to 10?
You're right.
I think you are right. And I think in my head, I was like, oh, we're only scheduled for 2 hours. I think this happened the first episode, actually. In my head, I thought we were only scheduled to record for 2 hours, and then we kept going. And I was
wow,
like,
these people really love D&D.
I was like, oh no. I told my husband that I would be done recording like an hour ago.
And we never made that mistake again. Except it happens every week.
Just be like, go do your own thing.
It's like, please no television in the house until I'm done.
Yeah, this is significant others do their own quiet thing as far away from recording as possible.
Yes.
It's a little behind the scenes for you.
My only request is that my partner give the cat and dog some treats during the recording session so they don't try to claw through the two doors, the bedroom and the closet door.
I'm going to derail for a second because I don't have pets, but everyone else has pets, and I want everyone to tell you what pets they have.
Oh, yeah.
I have a dachshund, a black and tan short-haired dachshund named Tofu.
I have a American, or Awesome American, I don't know what they're called. It's what they're called. It's like American Awesome short-hair cat named Hemlock that I got from the rabbit shelter I used to volunteer with. Don't ask me why.
He was in disguise.
Yeah, he was trying to infiltrate and get some of them sweet meats. And then I have a half Dalmatian, half Australian sheepdog named Aria.
Ah, and I have a. Oh, we did his genetic tests. So Finn is
23 in wolf.
Yes, yeah. It's called Wisdom Panel. I don't know why it's called Wisdom Panel. But
sorry.
But anyway, so Finn is like 25% Australian cattle dog, 12% husky, 12% German shepherd, maybe another 12% Labrador retriever. Allegedly, he's Chinese Shar-Pei, but I don't believe that. And then the rest of it is undetermined herding dog, and he just shook next to me, so you might have heard his ears, which are adorable and floppy.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to introduce all the pets because occasionally you can hear some pet sounds.
Man, I'm just waiting for a tabaxi character so I can like pull Hemlock up and he can go like,
In one of my games that is no longer running, I was playing a druid, and it was the very first time that we were playing together online, and the DM heard my dog Tofu barking, and immediately I got a familiar in the game that was a dog named Flint.
So Huck, our DM has not been as gracious with familiars.
Oh, I think you are pretty much set with an awakened shrub and hubbub.
It's true. Really piled him on.
And all those birds we can now identify. The chirp
the bullables, and is talking about another D&D session, especially when you're no longer doing like talking about an ex. Question directed to Kat from Jen. No, I'm just using.
I think it depends on the terms of how you parted ways.
Yeah, if you're not saying it looks so much better, it like. Yeah.
So while we are derailed on animal questions, I have a question for the non-pet owner, Brittni. Do you actually bird?
No. No, I don't. But it's funny you say that. So I have some podcast making friends. We're all in a Slack group together. And so I'm going to give a shout out to a podcast called The Casual Birder, who my internet friend Susie does. And yeah, it's fantastic. And she is a birder, and she makes us a fantastic, very listenable podcast about birding. So I listen to it occasionally, and now I see birds everywhere, like in the city. Like I see so many birds now.
And more importantly, you know how birders talk about birds, which it was very evident from your Sildar bit on birds because, yeah, my husband and I just like, we're birders, and we heard that, and we're just like, that's the best thing we've heard all. Okay, season's done. This is it. This is the best thing.
Yep.
That's so funny. Yeah, I see birds everywhere, including in my mind. Make them up. I have another question, actually, that's a follow-up for Kat from Jesse. And that is, how long do you spend preparing for each session and story arc?
Oof.
This is like dirty details. I don't think we want to know.
Okay, just mute for a second and I'll flag you. So it varies. Because we started off with In Volo's Wake, they were already prepared, and they were mini adventures. So for that, I was reading through it once, just, to get the read on it. And then I would read it again to make encounter adjustments and also some notes on NPCs. But then when it came to original content, I basically prepare like I'm writing for publication. So, getting an adventure on DM's Guild through Adventurers League, or or another publisher, I estimate those adventures to take about 40 hours from the start to finish, to produce it with the proper formatting and including all the adjustments for at-home play. And then the third thing that we do is downtime, where things basically switch around and I ask all of you what you want to do. And then for me, my prep is pretty light because most of it is actually improv.
Meris, how do you prepare for those downtime episodes?
There's the self-doubt. There's the rereading my character's backstory that I wrote and seemingly like worry that I'll forget. And then get my dice, even though we don't often have to roll during downtime.
Yes. Although Jen very often has to roll for cool during downtime.
It's true. And Sildar had to roll for hungover or not.
Yes.
Yep. And if I won racquetball or not, which I don't think anyone needs reminding how that went.
Yeah. I mean, it is, Kat always asks great questions of like, what does my character want to accomplish, or what does my character think? What does Rose think after something that just happened in that previous episode? And that kind of back and forth will inspire us for those downtimes. I think my favorite was just writing in the little adventure journal that Rose has, like, oh, I felt really bad that I hurt the kobold. I wish there was something I could do. And Kat's like, do you want to do that for your downtime? It's like, oh my God, I could do that.
How about you, Jen?
Oh, in my closet where I record, there is an outline of Riot on the wall, and I occasionally go into a fugue state, and I fill up the outline with a bunch of details. So basically, that's why I have my dice. It's not actually to roll for cool or hubris. It's always a 20. It's so I can see which body part I need to, because I numbered them anatomically. So it's like, which area do I need to grab a new detail from?
I honestly had no idea whether you meant a like silhouette outline or a like novel writing, report writing outline.
I'm sorry. No, full body outline.
Yeah, which
I'm
makes
gonna have to repaint this. Yeah, the landlord's not happy, but he doesn't understand art, so.
I think if you're playing D&D and your DM doesn't really do downtimes, or that's just not a thing that's in your game, I think, even though this is a podcast, like everyone's still playing. Like I'm playing an NPC, but I'm still kind of playing. And I get so much out of like learning about everyone's character and interacting outside of combat and outside of just like walking down a road. I just find them so much fun. And I know there's a lot of like, not controversy, but people on both sides of the table, where kind of downtime is a thing that they do or not do, or, I just think it's something that you should look into if you're playing a game and you are listening to our episodes and you're like, wow, they're just talking to each other for an hour. It's actually really fun to do like at the table and not as like an offline kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's a 5th edition, right? 5th edition.
Yes,
for the wordsmiths out there.
Effect, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. And also, I found it really useful when Xanathar's came out because it had even more in there that you could do. And we haven't even touched the surface. Like there's, you could start your own microbrewery if you wanted to in the game. You know what I mean?
Why didn't we do that in Phandalin?
Well, we had no idea we were going to be in Phandalin that long. Like, we could have raised some freaking kids there. Or I guess we did.
You basically sort of did. And you started a company, 2 companies.
Yeah.
Because I remember, to talk about previous D&D games that I've been in, to follow Kat's suit, I remember thinking that effectively what quote unquote downtime was just like, hey, you've done the encounter, you've moved from the, thoroughfare of the roads, you're now in a town, but there's actually still like quest stuff you're trying to accomplish while you're in the town, so you're not really in the town for very long. You're just there to pick up supplies, talk to whomever is going to give you the next quest hook, and obviously, all these were done like much more engagingly than I am describing them, but it really it also very much served a quest purpose, if not always as strong of a character development purpose. Like, it was always moving the plot forward, but I don't know that the characters were always... Like, I did a lot of shopping in those, which those were some of the areas I kept getting cut out of my downtimes. I just want to...
Meris's wish fulfillment corner?
It's like, Meris, can you just record a list of things you just bought?
Yes. Well, that's how I would always know I would get things, because my previous DMs were not always as generous with items as Kat is.
Right,
I've
like you could
some
choose
cool
one place.
stuff.
Yeah, I think that's where it helps, again, if you can encourage your DM if they're not doing that too. Like, all the characters should have, like, a long-term goal or two, that there's, like, a short-term and a long-term, and not just, like, collecting loot, which is obviously fun, but, you know, that way if you have, like, you know, like, I had a character that's always going to the libraries in town trying to find, you know, books from her, you know, whatever, overdue books, and, like, you know, sometimes there's not a library, but you can search people's homes when they're asleep, whatever. Like, there's things you can do, but I think you have to work with your DM a little bit outside of the game to make it fun for them as well. Like, what clues what breadcrumbs can they drop along the way? Or,
and it's actually a time where it's encouraged to split the party. Because I think that was the other thing, is those in-town experiences in other games that I've played were like, well, you usually had like so many hours in a town and you had 5 people and 2 wanted to go this way and 3 wanted to go that way, but really you knew you shouldn't split up the party because something's going to happen before everybody leaves and takes their snacks home. Like, you need to get everyone back together. So,
well, that's why when Rose decided she was going to go like sneak out of town and visit the hags, I was like, ooh, okay.
And splitting the party also helps because there's different power dynamics too, and some people jump in, which I think was probably part of a lot of our slowness in the beginning, was like letting people, like, wanting to let people talk first, and then like people wouldn't talk, so you're like, well, I'm just gonna run in here, like, you know. So you split them up, then people that are maybe a little more timid, Kat, I'm looking at you in gameplay, or take the DM time when we're playing other games, you know, when we split the party, that's a chance for Kat to, you know, attack first.
Next question comes from a friend of the show, Ethan Schoonover. He is actually a teacher at Lake Washington Girls Middle School, where we taught a D&D summer camp just a few weeks ago. And we were actually covered on Geek and Sundry, and Jen was a guest instructor. She came in and taught the girls how to make paper smalls of themselves, which was awesome. And actually on the Geek and Sundry website, you can find downloadable templates. Is there somewhere on our website that maybe people can find this?
Yeah, you should go to the website.
Yeah, it'll be there.
or you can go to bit.ly/D&D capital camp capital smalls. It'll be on the website too.
Yeah, that's All right, our website is d20dames.com.
Turn your decoder ring. Yeah, no, we'll put it on the website too.
Yeah, if you send a self-addressed stamp envelope
and 3 hairs from stolen from dogs while they sleep. So did Ethan just write in to get a plug, or
no, he has multiple questions for us. So he says, long-time fan but first-time writer. He emailed in, and one of his questions was, what is the biggest change in the style of play on the podcast since we started?
I think we know our characters better. We know what our characters do better. There's less page flipping.
Definitely.
Less page flipping, trying to figure out how does that work? How does that fist of what again? What do I
think
do?
it also helps that we have D&D Beyond.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, because it's so easy to reference character sheets and information without like having us, like, for me, it was basically every single reference guide for D&D surrounding me, because I didn't know that there was an unspoken rule that it was just player's handbook +1. And I was like, no, everybody can pick whatever you want, and we'll go with that. So
I think Kat figured out early on that we were all like wishful detectives. So during the Trouble at Tresendor Manor I believe, Kat, you said you named all the kobolds, but none of the gnomes we were trying to find except for Ronwell. So we kept asking who we were rescuing, their names, and so then you're like, oh, I'm going to game them with this fake puzzle that I definitely wrote down in my sketchbook.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Yeah, I literally had... there was a room that you missed, and it was like an employee room for the kobolds. It had lockers with all the kobold names written in Draconic. And no, you completely just missed that, and I had to make up names for all these gnomes. But I got you.
We must know who we're rescuing. We have to know.
Yeah, it's like a technique. You snap them, hopefully. Yeah, you did get us.
It was so good. Whenever I'm feeling down, I think about that reveal. It was a good day.
I got like a runner's high from laughing so hard.
Yeah. I think one of the things that changed too was basically how when we started off, we were like, this is going to be rat queens, and we're going to be like, all the characters are going to be really badass, and maybe.
Whoa.
Well, you're all still badass, but like more, I think, morally questionable.
Yes.
And you wound up naturally moving toward like kindness.
Yes.
And we did have to have an offline conversation talking about alignment because of that.
Right. I think, none of us had good in our...
No, I don't think so.
None of us had good in our alignments. And
but that might have been a natural result of also limiting our cursing on the
I think so too. Yeah.
Which not to say that you can't be a badass and not curse, but
absolutely. Like I still think that the characters are really strong women, and just because they're kind doesn't mean they're less powerful. It's just interesting because we started off completely different with their intention, and then I think one of the things that made the change for us was that we weren't going to swear, we were going to make it kid friendly, and then it just, I don't even think it was that we were making it kid friendly, we just decided we weren't going to swear, and then it became kid friendly. Like starting off
with consequences.
Oh yeah, but like I never would have expected, this half orc to be reinstated his ancestral home, or those kobolds to be friends with the adventuring party, or like having a group meditation scene, or also like all of you helping the single dad navigate his life with a tween daughter. Like
it's not for him. It was partially for him. Oh.
So Ethan also asks Brittni, and to a slightly lesser degree the rest of us, but what is the biggest change to the way you produce the podcast overall, producer?
So I would say that my producer title is a little bit of a misnomer. I think we all pitch in on like the production of the podcast, like getting it out. We're a much more well-oiled machine these days. We have like a system in place, and we know what we're doing, and we know everyone's roles, and it works really well. At the beginning, it was kind of like, who's going to do this? Who's doing this? Is someone posting this somewhere? Did someone make a thing for that thing?
Yes.
And that was a kind of a chaotic time for sure. But I think that's probably the biggest change overall for all of us. Like we have kind of, we have a way to do this. I mean, we put an episode out every other week, and it works. And so I think the consistency and just it's not like a mad rush at the end to get a podcast out every week. Sometimes it's like that because life, but it's not always like that. So I think that is one thing. And then the other big thing for me, I would say I'm more of an editor than just producer. Because I think we all kind of share producing duties. But from an editing standpoint, the biggest change is I went from GarageBand to Adobe Audition. Huge life changer, lifesaver, all the life things. Seriously, I looked back on GarageBand recently and kind of saw where we were and what I was doing, and how things sounded and how things were put together. And it was a mess, and it was slow. And yeah, now I use Audition, basically taught myself how to use it, and it's totally worth it. It was worth kind of the effort to learn that, and now it's so much easier, faster to get a podcast out from start to finish. So yeah, I think from like a technical kind of behind the scenes standpoint, that's one of the biggest things. Makes things a lot faster. Do
you want to maybe talk about how from start to finish you actually edit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I might cut this because it's gonna be boring as all heck, but how ironic. But yeah, so the way we record this podcast is that everyone is at home in their own homes, in their own closets with their own pets, and everyone records their own track. And then at the same time, we're all on a call. We used to use Skype. We use Discord now. Just a little bit better quality on the call. And I also record the Discord call so that we kind of have a track that we can reference. And then everyone at the end of our session sends me their individual tracks and we line them up. This is another thing that kind of changed from beginning to end, like where we are now, is at the beginning, everyone's call kind of sounded, or everyone's track kind of sounded a little different. Some people were close to the mic, some people were far away, some people had background noise, some people didn't. So we spent the first few episodes kind of tweaking that. We like worked individually with everyone to just check in on recording setups and settings and all the things. So now we have this pretty extensive recording checklist. So if anyone ever has like amnesia on how to set up their stuff, they can kind of reference this checklist. We should probably, I wonder if we should kind of share something like that too for people that want to start their own thing. But yeah, after that, I just line the tracks up and spend, I also kind of do some audio quality edits on each individual file, taking some noise reduction stuff out, doing some EQ work. But after that, it's kind of like a slice and dice game.
What would you say EQ work is for, I don't know, equalizer?
Yeah,
No?
Equalizer. You got it.
Oh, okay.
Nailed it. 10 points.
Do the points matter?
Nope, they don't matter. Sorry. Not at this episode. This is a bonus episode, so it doesn't count for anything. So.
Jen got a tiefling out of 10.
What?
Yeah.
Yes!
Extra credit.
Yeah, at the end of the year, I'll count up the extra credit points. It's a tiebreaker. Slicing out things that don't quite land, or big, huge pauses, which occasionally happen. And then, put together hopefully a relatively entertaining episode. We also have like a feedback process, so I don't just have final say on what our episode is. Everyone else gets to listen to it and kind of say what they like about it, what they don't love about it. We get some fun quotes out of it and to use for our graphic images and things like that. So it's a super collaborative process after that point, just back and forth with the group, and then cut that final episode and gets to listeners every other Tuesday.
This little follow-up from the other D&D Girls Summer Camp counselor, Hadil Almasari. But I think you kind of answered like, what new things did you learn while producing a D&D actual play podcast?
Yeah, I did kind of touch on that, right?
Like everything?
Literally all the things I just said I did not know how to do before.
That's good to know, right? Like the learning curve is high, but you did it. Like,
Yeah. I have a bit of a technical background just in general from working at startups and things like that. So I've learned how to figure things out. I've done some video editing and things like that. I went to school for music, so I've done some sound recording stuff. And so I've been around this sort of thing for a while, but this is the first time where I had to kind of dive deep into a project that was completely from scratch. We all got new microphones and had to learn how to use them, and we all had to use software we had never used before. It was a huge learning curve. I think we were smart to say, hey, let's make the first couple episodes kind of trial and error. Mm-hmm. We got really lucky and got some really great episodes out of it. I don't think they turned out nearly as bad as we anticipated them being. Mm-hmm. So they're actually just like in our lineup like normal. But yeah, everything for those first few months was just learning. And even to my transition from GarageBand to Audition, it was another learning. And now moving from Skype to Discord, learning again. So we're going to continually keep learning things and figuring out things. I think too, like I am in a really good community of other podcasters that we kind of share knowledge of things and, you know, what's working, what's not. I would love if there were more communities out there like that. There are some really, really big ones that are kind of crazy, like giant Facebook groups with thousands of people, and it's just people asking the same questions over and over again. Those are fine. But if you can find a kind of smaller group, a local group maybe, I've learned so much just through that community. And we're kind of starting our own community too. People ask questions occasionally on social media. And yeah, we're always open to kind of sharing what we're learning and trying to make the best podcast we can and help other people make the best podcasts they can too. So Hadil Amasari had another question too. Hadil is Twitty Such on Twitter and plays Miga on the Twitch stream Hell's Bells. You definitely check that out. I feel like every monk has some sort of crazy secret for some reason. So does Rose have any secrets? This is my favorite question.
Well, the listeners know she has a secret sort of from her companions about the hags. Every now and then I don't have regrets, but every now and then I have regrets.
Well, you made a bargain with a couple of hags in a shack in the middle of the forest. What could go wrong?
After drinking a potion from a stranger, not asking what it was. No, it's fine.
Nope.
Luckily, none of us know about that.
It sounds like Rose has a death wish.
We'll have to revisit that. So Meris didn't realize hags are considered evil. I just thought hags were just another name for witches, and witches come in all forms. Evil to just misunderstood. So yeah. So that's one of Rose's in-game secrets that the audience has heard of, so that's not really that's not what Hadil is asking. She hasn't seen her parents since she was like 11, I think. But yeah, there's some other stuff in her backstory that I'm not quite sure how much of it is like secret and how much of it is just waiting for the DM to bring out in season 2.
Does Rose miss her family?
Kind of.
Ooh.
They were a poor farming family, so they sent her kind of as a apprentice slash kind of indentured apprentice of sorts, to ensure she had a better life, but she was 11 and felt like they were sending her away. So there's some complex feelings there.
Yeah, and also I think during the same hag visit, it was revealed that she had regrets about her sister who passed away too.
Oh yeah.
So Hadil had another amazing character question, and she's asking, does Riot ever hang upside down and wrap her wings around her like a bat? We need to know this.
The important questions.
Yes.
No, and why do people keep asking me? Hold on. Okay. I think do I have the tensile tail strength? I'll get back to you like mid-season 2. Gotta get dungeon strong with my tail. Like, jeez, people are weird. Why do they want to know how I sleep? Just because I know how they sleep?
I mean, she didn't say sleep. This is just, this could be sleeping. This could be living. This could be.
Oh, you're right.
You made that assumption.
For fighting, absolutely, but I don't wrap the wings around my face because then I can't see. Pretty obvious question there, or answer, Hadil. Jeez. Can I go? Where am I? No.
Riot, maybe you should tell Jen to try hanging your outline upside down. Maybe that'll help.
My outline? Sounds like some sort of sorcerer. I don't know.
I'm actually picturing Riot in Jen's closet being like, what's happening? Where am
popping
I?
out of the outline.
Is this berry flavored water? What is this? Oh, it's so good.
Someone's been taking notes about me.
Oh, God.
Am I really me? Good question, Hadil.
Just a little existential crisis. No big deal. Everyone's
No,
fine.
it's cool. It's cool.
Nope. We're fine.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Nope. Oh yeah, there's also, in terms of character, like going back a little bit to the question about how our podcasts, our style of play has changed. Riot always had an awesome voice. Rose has actually been finding hers, and I'm trying to make it less my voice. It's still mostly my voice, but I'm trying to make it not always my voice.
I think it just showcases like different play styles, though.
Yeah, I never have an issue. I'm never like, is that Meris or is that Rose?
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's very clear to me when you are in character, and I can't figure out why, actually. But it's like super
like
clear.
a positive strength. But Meris still has that too. But
yeah, it's
with
not...
Rose, it's like projected a little bit more strongly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the person we need to talk about is Kat, though. Like, gotta get on that accent game. Like, what is happening?
Oh my God.
They're clearly amazing.
Episode. Yeah, we might need to do a separate episode where we kind of deep dive into all the characters and where those all came from, because there's so many good ones.
And then we interview every NPC.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Put you through the ringer.
And we ask them questions, and we're like, just round table it, like, talk to one another. We don't need to be here.
Just turn off our mics.
Yeah, this sounds good to me.
Oh, that's my nightmare.
So we've got another sort of questions from one of our Patreon supporters, Kenneth Jackson. Oh, God. Okay,
sorry.
Hi.
Sorry, do you want to do that again and we all scream or something? No.
I like the horn. That was good.
Yeah, the horn was good. It's on brand for us. Yeah. Kenneth Jackson, thank you so much for your support. So Ken is asking a question for Kat. And I'm gonna expand on his question. His question is, what kind of character would Kat be playing if she wasn't DMing? And I want Kat to answer like characters she is currently playing in other D&D games, but also what characters she would play in the D20 Dames campaign.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I currently play in 2 weekly games where my partner, Chris Tulloch, is the DM. So on Sunday night, we play Curse of Strahd, where I play... she's basically this female half-elf ranger sorcerer that I multi-class, but she's essentially based on The Witcher, so she's just like a lady witcher. I thought it would just be fun to have a monster hunter type of character in Barovia. And then on Wednesday nights, I play Tomb of Annihilation with Jen and some of our friends. And currently I'm rotating through a group of Tabaxi who are Knights of the Order of the Unicorn, and they're all cousins.
And it gets better.
Yeah, the Tabaxi, for anybody who doesn't know, they're cat people. And it started with Dame Ian 9 Lives, who's a bard. And I'm currently playing Dame Sam 7 Lives, who's an Eldritch Knight. And she's basically collecting these. She's got a familiar that's an Almirage. It's like a unicorn bunny. And she also just found a flying monkey that she saved from some sort of hag. So those are the ones that I'm currently playing. I also recently joined the cast of an upcoming podcast called Adventure They Wrote. It's this noir-themed detective agency set in Waterdeep, and I am playing a cleric she's like a half sun elf, half Shulong human, and she's named the Countess, and she's basically the Dowager from Downton Abbey meets Lovey from Gilligan's Island. And I think if I was playing with the dames, I would probably be somebody quirky, like one of these characters. I don't know what class I would play, because we already have a ranger, and that's probably my favorite class.
I mean, there's a million different. Like, I'm a monster hunter ranger. You could be a mushroom ranger.
There is in Xanathar's, though, the one that really intrigued me was there's a fighter that's an arcane archer. So maybe that. And I really like those tabaxi. So maybe it'll be like, I don't know, like another dame from there. So Ken is also asking Brittni, when this podcast started, did you see yourself stepping into play, or did Sildar just happen?
Kind of a little bit of both. So initially, when we had this whole thing going with D20 Dames, I was going to play as a player. But thinking about all the other stuff that needed to get done, I definitely wanted to focus on the kind of behind the scenes aspect of the podcast, which is why I kind of stepped into the producer editor role. But with that, I made sure to let Kat know, who was planning to DM for this first stretch, that I would be available to do NPC work as she needed, so that she wasn't juggling a ton of different characters and voices. Although you still do, Kat. There's just one less.
One less, yes.
Which is so funny to me when I think about it, because my vision was that, like, oh, there'd be a couple that I just kind of juggle, and like they wouldn't really do anything. They'd just be around.
They wouldn't become the most beloved character of the franchise. Like him and Carp.
Yeah, Carp. I mean, yeah. If there's a spinoff where Kat and I just have like a session alone, it's just Sildar and Carp, especially as the Dames lead Vandalin. There needs to be some kind of bonus content.
Oh my gosh, please. Yes.
There's so much like
their weekly
easily
meetings.
Improv'd like content there. Yeah, the weekly meetings, the check-ins. Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah, Sildar is part of, he's part of lots of D&D adventures, but he was written into Invola's wake. So it was kind of just like, oh, he's going to give the Dames a quest and then go help them with it or something and whatever. And so it was that. And then Kat wrote him into Tressendar Manor.
Yes.
Where there was actually the first like Sildar combat. And then it just kept rolling from there.
Yes.
Where people ended up having relationships. I think in part because of Alana, aka Winter, being so tied into different Dames storylines. That Sildar kind of became more important. So yeah, it's kind of both. It did just happen, but it was planned that I would do some kind of NPC stuff, which will kind of evolve as we continue the show. But yeah, I don't know where Sildar came from a character standpoint. He is like the most blandly like written. He's just, fighter. There's a lot of history and D&D lore with him. Like you'll see him come up and through things, and he has a history and all that stuff. But it's like really not where I took him at all. It's more.
He's very blue jeans in the Adventure Zone.
Right. Which, they took him off on his own journey. But just knowing that he, had this life as a fighter and now like lives in this, relatively small town with seeing the same people every day, but like likes it, kind of was so intriguing to me. That are just like, this is an odd man who has a lot to say, but is just stuck in this town and just is gonna grab on to anything new that he sees. So the Dames was perfect because there's just something exciting and new, and new friends.
I just realized that we had a question on Twitter, like before we even asked for questions, about whether or not this Vandalin exists in the same timeline as the Adventure Zone. Mm-hmm. In my mind, in my own headcanon, I believe that this is a Vandalin of an alternate timeline where the boys go in, they blow up Vandalin because this Vandalin is recovering from a disaster. And it's sort of detailed, like not detailed in Volo's wake, but it's mentioned. And so from the start, I was like, yeah, this is a little time later, and people are basically living their lives after this explosion happened. And I think it's funny because of the direction that the Dames went, we have like these two almost polar opposites where the boys went in and blew it up by accident. And then the Dames sort of come in and like, there's like Bannock Brothers Bakery, and they've helped the Sleeping Giant become a hopping place. And there's Tressendar Manor tours, and there's Alderleaf Home for Wayward Monsters, and all of this stuff wouldn't have existed without, like I was saying earlier on, the kindness that the Dames as adventurers have presented to this alternate timeline of Phandalin.
Do we ever know if the shop implemented any customer service training? Or like anything, or maybe improved its staff retention? Because
I like the idea of making Barthens like this, almost like a giant corporation, even though it's in this tiny little town. It's like it's the spot to go for all of your things. And usually if you're at a local shop, the level of service is a little bit higher than some of these bigger places, but I wanted to turn it around and make it the opposite, where it's just like all these interns or summer workers are going through.
Oh my god, Barthens.
Always seasonal workers, 100%
every
of the time.
season, every season, all the seasons.
You could go there for anything but human connection.
Yes.
Yep.
It's
really
almost
tough
felt like
for a
you were
monk.
torturing Meris/Rose.
Yeah,
She's like begging for human connection, giving gifts to people. Like,
there's a sign on the front that's like, "Why don't you just order this online?"
Yes.
Onleen. What town is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Onleen's actually Carp's cousin, and she does deliveries. So,
does he take out a page ad in the zine?
Yeah. Speaking of kids in town.
Yeah. Good segue. This is a very, very important question for me, Kat. Not to put you on the spot or anything, but Ken Jackson also asks, will Sildar's daughter ever make a reappearance?
I feel like if I answer this like either way, it's going to be spoilery. I think regardless of where the Dames go, we're going to see some of the NPCs show up, including Winter, because of the postcards, and maybe because of other reasons that I will not reveal.
I mean, I think we've already addressed that. Like, we have a list of things that we want to kind of revisit from Phandalin. Whether that's in, bonus content or extra little bits of things that we kind of just improvise on the side. I think that would just be really, really fun. There's just too much good stuff and too many fun characters to not do that. How we get them to interact with, those who have moved on from Phandalin. Like maybe that's in the postcards or in letters and things like that or something. But yeah, I think it goes to say for all of the characters in Phandalin, like we'll continue, we'll follow up on what's going on. Like there will be more bready inventions.
Yeah, this is definitely not the last that you've heard of the NPCs from Phandalin, even though the Dames are technically moving on.
Right.
Yeah. Ken had another last question, and then also it's actually a couple people asked this one. Meris and I for all of them. How do we think that our characters' approaches to the NPCs changed over the overall vibe of the show? Like, I guess because like we were mostly nice to them instead of slaughtering those that got in our way.
I was actually wondering if we have been killing less as we've gone through the season. I'm trying
I guess because of Riot's background as like being a monster in a dungeon waiting for people to come and try to, best her wizard. she tries to like connect to people first by talking. So I think one of the gnolls actually, hurt her. We were rescuing Winter from that tree with her friends. So it's like we're going to try to, combat is like a last resort. It's like try to, speak to them, figure out a language or something. And, because it's not, using our weapons is fun, but it's like, they dull really fast if we use them. So like, do we want to spend our downtime sharpening? Or do we want to like
conservation?
I mean, in the end, I guess maybe that's the adult part of it, right? Is like we know what goes into buying stuff and maintenance. It's real fun to listen to.
And I was thinking about this with like for me and for Rose, I think the kobolds really were the turning point. Because I think I was approaching the fights and the encounters pretty similarly to how I had approached them in other games. I can think of one other instance where we tried to, in a different game, where our party tried to convince a guard to join the side of good and let us down the shaft into the meeting place. And we actually persuaded him to join the side of good. And that kind of reminds me of how we are approaching our play. But when Kat was playing the kobolds and gave voices and personality to those kobolds, it turned it from the dames are up against creatures that they have to fight to, oh no, these are people.
Yeah, it's I had a conversation with Ethan about that, and he said a similar thing, because he said that kobolds are usually things that you go through a dungeon and you kill them and you don't really think about it, but like they have language. They're humanoid. And yeah, I actually didn't really think that the giving them personality was going to have any impact. I just did it for flavor. And then when I think for me, what maybe triggered it was Riot was like, are these just kids?
That was probably like a shortness thing on my fault. Like I didn't realize they were just kobold size, but
still, I mean, I think that, when you hear that has like maybe an impact on how you perceive things, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's when we, superhero films are a big thing. And like the body counts in those movies is always astounding to me. Even just like from like ships crashing into a city or something, not just like outright, beating thugs up. And that's, I guess, just like from a, city engineer or like lawyer point of view, all I could think of is like seeing those like the costs of life and like infrastructure racking up and like what taxes will like how the taxes will go up in like 2 years and stuff. And it's like, oh, like surely there's like, I don't know. I guess it just forces us to be creative in different ways than just like, let's do a cool kickflip off this guy's face, which is also very satisfying.
Rose is very good at that.
Yes.
Cool.
Or, well, yeah, she's good at the kicks. Walking,
not so much.
Not so much. Like, I have incredibly high dexterity, incredibly high athletics, and walking in the like every time.
It's pretty amazing. It's spectacular.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
So before we get to our next question, I have a little reminder announcement. So we're doing a live show with the Queens of Adventure podcast. It's a doubleheader show right before PAX West on August 30th. We're doing it offsite, so you don't need a PAX badge or anything to get in. You just need tickets, and it will be at Kremwerk, which is this really cool kind of experimental kind of industrial basement space in Seattle. We are going to be doing the first show that night on Thursday, August 30th at 7 p.m. Doors will be at 6, and then Queens of Adventure will start at 9:30. So you can get tickets for both shows all together for a slightly discounted price, or you can buy them separately. That is totally up to you. We recommend getting tickets for both shows. Jen and I recently went to see a Queens of Adventure live show. It was fantastic. I still have dreams about it. It was really, really fun.
I got a 6-pack from laughing. Like, it was great.
Seriously, we were
Whoa.
in tears the whole time. If you don't know what Queens of Adventure is, it is the folks that bring you Dungeons and Dragons and drag queens. Basically, they Matt Baum, who does these amazing drag queen D&D live shows, recently started a podcast. They have they have a full preseason out, and half of their first season is available too. Definitely check that out. But it's drag queens playing D&D, Arson Nikki, Freya Love, Butalino Kipple, and Harlot Oscara, going through a D&D campaign. The coolest part about this live show is that Kat and Matt are collaborating on the adventure itself. So it will be related. It'll be in the same place. There'll be some fun little secret tie-overs. So definitely check out both shows if you can. If you're going to be in Seattle for PAX, definitely check that out. You can get tickets at bit.ly/D20 Queens 2018. And you can also go to d20dames.com and find details there. We hope to see you there. It's going to be so much fun. This will be our second live show. And we're super, super excited about it, especially sharing the stage with Queens of Adventure.
Yes. Which also we should point out, though, if you're a younger person, maybe you talk to your parents before listening, it is Queens of Adventure. Well, they're queens for a reason. It's a little bit older, like we were just the dames or the princess. Yeah, sophisticated. Yeah. Some of their weapons are very adult.
Yeah, there's a reason that D20 Dames is going first in the kind of matinee slot, and the queens are taking that moonlight slot. They've earned that for sure. It's definitely not the Safe for Work podcast that you're looking for. But if you are, of age and responsible and mature adult, definitely check it out. It's so teens, funny. Yeah. It's what you could imagine it is. It's just the most funny and just really well played D&D. So we are super excited to just be working with them, and they are fellow Seattleites with us. So exciting. I'm super excited.
Yes.
So we have another question from Sam Hasseldine or Sam Hasseldine, one of those, who is a Patreon supporter. I can't remember how we do our horn.
I know, I can't do it.
Not enough 20s rolled.
Well, I think it was like do 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 do, but then there's also or
I do prefer the air horn version.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair.
Yeah, that one's a little too medieval fairy for me. Fair with an E. So Sam says there's a little bit here. I'll read the whole thing though. Yeah. Hello, dames. Love the show. It has inspired me to start DMing. So thanks to you guys, all my free time is now D&D prep time. You're welcome, and we're sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Or not sorry.
Or not. I mean, it's part of your life now. It's great. I really enjoy the fun you guys have with flirting and relationships between the characters and NPCs, especially how awkward Riot is when it's happening. Me too, Sam. Me too. Do you have any advice on how I could bring that fun into my game without making any of the players feel uncomfortable? All my love and hugs. This is a fantastic question. I have no
Riot.
Well, I do think that's a little bit of the back and forth between the player and the DM.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least we have talked a little bit about some of the stuff with my character. But I think it's just I don't want to say some of it's freeform. I think you have to you have to work in a comfortable space. So some people use an X system where they obviously we're not in the same room, but if a player or a PC goes too far, then they just they show a card with an X on it, and then everyone just moves on. So I don't know. I think it really depends on who's at the table, honestly.
Yeah, I really think that a really big contributing factor to our comfort with role playing this flirting and relationships thing is that we started out or became really good friends during the production. That goes for all of us, right? With even when we look at the Rosebud thing, that was just kind of a goof, right? It's sweet, but that's become this really adorable friendship. And then with Riot, I think Jen, because Jen and I, we co-work together regularly. We're really good friends. I think I implicitly understood what Jen's intentions were and just kind
Kat's
of rolled
in love with me
it.
now. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's
it
actually
comes out
awkward.
in every single NPC she plays, and it's actually like really hard for us all to just like keep our mouth shut about it.
Is this technically an intervention? You just tricked me. This whole time it was like lead up to intervention.
Oh. No, and I think that's what the conversation we have off is about. It's like, hey, are you cool if I want to play act kissing someone? Because, boy, howdy, it is, you're asking your friend to, like, pretend to be into you, like, in a different way. So that's what, But yeah, I think that's, again, the players. And now I'm just embarrassed, so.
Well, I mean, to use an example from another game that I was in, my husband was the DM, and we were playing with a bunch of our friends, and at some point he and I actually talked, like, because so when he was at one point NPCing a lady dwarf, and our friend who was his character was a dwarf, they started flirting. It became this like long ongoing like thing. This NPC actually kept popping up, and this like uncertain flirtation thing that kept going back and forth like became a core personality aspect of our friend's character. But then with my husband and I, we actually had a conversation on the side, like when he would play attractive male NPCs, it was actually, he felt uncomfortable if I tried to flirt with his characters in front of our friends, because it was like too close, and like it was that kind of like, are we basically PDAs in front of our friends, or so it's that kind of thing of like when you're at the table with the people that you're playing with, definitely take some time to get to know them as them, and then I think you'll get a sense of who they are within their characters, and where those NPC PC like relationships of all kinds can go.
Well, from a DM's perspective, I kind of feel like, part of this is my job. It's to have these conversations with my players so I can understand what you want for your characters in terms of like developing their story and working that into the framework of our story. Because I think it's, in Riot's case in particular, it's really important in her character development to do some of this, because, she's lived in a dungeon tower outside of human contact, and has had this like really hard life that where she hasn't had that experience before. And, I think that's important for her and for the story and character development. But I mean, for us too, it's sort of like, we're a family-friendly podcast, so there's limits on how far things can go anyway, right? So I think it's just a matter of like having those conversations and constantly checking in to make sure everything's good.
It helps if you roll terribly every time.
That too.
Yeah. It's probably more fun to listen to as well.
The potential was there. All right. So if you are listening to this episode, that means hopefully you have finished all of season 1, because if you haven't finished all of season 1, we definitely just spoiled some stuff for you tonight. So I really hope you've listened. And if you are at the end of season 1, you might be wondering when season 2 starts. And we have an answer for that. The premiere of season 2 is going to be on September 4th. But don't tune into your favorite podcast feed just yet. Tune into Twitch on the Geek Space TV channel to see us play our season 2 premiere live. We're really excited to be partnering with Geek Space TV. They are a nonprofit online broadcasting studio that is dedicated to improving representation, inclusion, and diversity in gaming and in geek spaces. So it's an organization of really awesome people. They've got a couple very fun RPGs going on their channel now that you can check out kind of throughout the week. But we'll have more information coming out soon. I believe it'll start at 7 p.m. on September 4th. And just twitch.tv/geekspace.tv.
Speaking of live shows, we have yet another live show to talk about. Some people may not know, but Geek Girl Con takes place in downtown Seattle, the Convention Center, October 27th and 28th. That is a Saturday and Sunday. And we will be performing a live show one of those days, as well as having a fireside chat with Kat and myself. But Geek Girls Con is a great convention if you've never attended. They celebrate every geek, and they honor the legacy of women contributing to science and technology. And it's a real fun show. We'll also have a table set up there. And, with our stickers and maybe some adventure art as well. You can, just come and hang and talk and ask us about podcasts and how to play D&D and whatnot.
Yeah, so our Geek Girl Con live show is going to happen while we're in the middle of season 2. But before then, I think we have some pretty exciting news about a new dame who will be joining our ranks. I think it's time to introduce our secret special guest and newest dame, Jess Ross.
Hi.
Hey, Jessica.
Am I allowed to clap now?
Yes.
So, Jessica, what's new?
Oh, just joining the dames here. Having a good time.
Yeah, we're super excited that you're going to be joining us. Do you want to maybe just tease a little bit about the character that you might be playing?
Sure. So I'm really excited to be playing an Earth Genasi, who is a soldier and who has, I think, a pretty cool background. Her dad was a soldier and her mom was a genie, and I think she looks pretty dang cool.
Holy crap, that's a thing?
Yeah. Meris is scrapping her character. She's rolling.
The Genasi are pretty cool, and not just because of the root word of their name.
It's okay. No, just pocketing this aside, not to steal your thunder, pocketing this aside for other, just in case. There's always another game that someone invites you to.
Yeah, exactly.
Jessica, do you want to tell our listeners what your podcasting and other background is?
Sure. So I am a teacher and an editor. That's my sort of general background. And for my podcasting background, I've been podcasting with BTA Podcasts for about 4 years. I'm currently the lead editor of that network. We've got a couple of different fun podcasts that we do that I'm not actually sure I can say the titles of. Since this is, I think, a family friendly.
It's fine.
You can say it with asterisks.
I feel like you could say what?
Yeah.
Can we not say that? It's a title or something.
If there are any children that have sensitive ears, this isn't for you.
Earmuffs. So the one podcast that I'll mention by name is Bitches and Liches, because it is also an actual play podcast, and in that one we play Blue Rose, which is an awesome romantic fantasy tabletop RPG, which is a lot of fun. And we just wrapped up an arc in which several people may or may not have actually secretly been frogs.
For a bit.
Yeah, we should do a crossover episode with Hubbub.
Yeah. It's going to be good for your alligator character.
That's perfect.
I'm king. Yeah, I'm king. Oh, and we actually met Jessica at PodCon last year in Seattle. I can't remember which panel at what time it was exactly and what the weather was like outside, but we were sitting next to you and started talking to you before the panel, and then we're like, hey, you should come hang with us, and then also come to the panel that we had, or that a lot of the dames were on.
Yeah.
We were just trying to recruit people.
That day it was a lot of hustling that day, I will say. Yeah. We were just one by one getting people to come to our panel. It was amazing. Super successful. And we've met some cool friends.
Yeah. I was just like, man, I want to hang out with Jessica again.
Yeah.
You pulled me in immediately. I also wanted to hang out with you. So as soon as y'all were like, oh, we're going to this thing, I was like, yes, me too now.
We also were on a panel with Jessica at Emerald City Comic Con where we were talking about podcasting and live streaming with Kate Welch and Alyssa Grant and Brittany and myself. You were the moderator.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. I mean, we had so much fun. We obviously had to like invite you to become a cast member for.
Yeah, we can only make so many panels and invite you to them. There's only so many cons. We're like, oh, all right, we didn't go to Gen Con. We didn't. All right, we have to think of something else. We gotta scheme this. Let's put it on the podcast.
That's how I get you.
Plus, there's like on every panel we're on, we have to be like over 50% of the panel. So I think that's how that math worked out. The dames don't travel alone. Like,
yeah, kind of a writer.
Yeah.
Jessica, I'm really excited to play with you. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm really excited too. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to like a fun, upbeat game because right now the only D&D I'm playing is Curse of Strahd, and it's fun, but it's also like super dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm playing that on Sundays, and yeah, my character is a Witcher character, and yeah, it's dark.
Yeah. Yeah, it's dark, and we just like don't get a lot done, I feel like, because we're all just like constantly feeling like we're about to be attacked by Strahd.
Isn't there?
Even though we're only like level 3, like we're not going to see Strahd for a long time.
Oh no,
but we're still just like, oh, it's Strahd any second now around this corner.
Yeah, no, our characters are at level 8 or 9 now, and yeah, we're still feeling that way.
We don't have to worry about it being too dark because Meris's character has a torch that turns on and off. Like,
Yeah, dude. Yes.
We got one pun in. That's
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, so we've got another question from Jesse Shepard that all 4 of us are going to be able to answer. And the question is, what advice would you give to someone interested in starting their own actual play podcast? I defer to the people who had the original idea of this podcast.
I'd be play with people that you want to play with and spend a lot of time with.
yeah.
It's probably a good good place to start.
I think also playing with those people before you start is really important too, because everybody's got different play styles, and sometimes some play styles don't really mesh well.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And also, like, even after you've played a little bit without recording, session 0 is really important, where you like play with the recording, but also still like hammer out those final details of play style and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and have a discussion during that session 0 too about like what you want to do. And, you know, we touched on this earlier about, you know, how we decided we weren't going to swear in D20 Dames, and that sort of changed how we played.
Yeah, we also kind of made an estimated time for the first campaign, which I think we overshot by 3 months. But I think it was just so we would have and if people aren't having a good time, then we don't have to do it anymore. Because it's we're here for fun and also teach people about D&D a little bit, or role playing. So, but we it was like caveat central in our initial emails, like, we just want to try it out and see if we're having fun. Yeah, but otherwise, you'll just have like a cool mic at home, and, sitting in the corner.
I think too, if you're already playing with a group, the inclination might be like, hey, let's make a podcast, or let's stream this or whatever, which is awesome. Definitely do that. Understanding the difference between putting out a podcast for public consumption and your like home game is something that we talk about a lot, like offline. Just things that we're doing in our play style that kind of don't necessarily work for the podcast versus how we play with home games. I think I'm the only one who's not currently playing some other game right now, but we all have experience playing that is not just on a podcast, and it's totally different. You take some more time with things. You can kind of there's less like research that you're doing beforehand, so that you're super super prepared for the podcast. When you're playing at a home game, you can kind of figure things out and talk across the table. And for a podcast, when it comes to something that you're trying to edit and get down to a concise, listenable format, that stuff makes it a little harder. It doesn't mean that you can't just record yourself playing, put it out there on the internet, and have people listen. That totally works too. But I think that goes back to like what your intention is with the podcast. So if everyone comes together and says, we want a nice, tight 45-minute session, and everything's really well edited, and we have music and sound effects. Like if those are your expectations, you have to kind of figure out how you're going to make your play style work for that. If it's just going to be kind of stream of conscious, like this is just us playing, and it's just what it is, and all the giggles and all the pauses are in there too. There's a lot of like really great gameplay podcasts out there that are kind of more on that side of things. If that's what everyone has agreed to wanting, then that will totally work. But kind of figuring out what it is you're trying to do up front. With the Dames, we had some, examples. We kind of want it to be like this podcast or this stream. We don't want it to be like this, having that up front is really important, and understanding the difference between all the different styles that there are. And there are so many. Like, the first thing you should do is just listen to a bunch of actual podcasts.
Yes.
There are so many out there.
Yeah. One of the big things I know that I talked to Kat about is that we were talking about our characters. We speak in the third person about them.
Yep.
It's maybe a little less immersive, but it's overall a better listener experience, especially for people that, are trying to, get in on the podcast, and just sometimes voices sound alike, and just so you know who is who and who's doing what.
One last bit of advice, or maybe we have more advice for the actual play podcasts, is I know when Kat asked me if I wanted to be part of the podcast, of like, heck yes, I had no idea how much work it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets, but oh my gosh, I have had to kind of have a real epiphany moment where, like, oh no, this is one of my, like, if I'm allowed 3 big projects at a time, this is one of my 3 projects constantly. Yeah. And that's just how it is, and that's how I allocate my time and whatnot. But kind of getting it through my head those first few months of, oh, okay, yeah, there's a thing I need to do every night. Got it.
Yeah, especially if you're the person who wants to start an actual play podcast and you're trying to convince other people to do it too. Those other people might not be as on board with the other stuff as you are. So when it comes to the editing and the posting and the social media and whatever else, like even if you're just making something for yourself and your friends to enjoy, there's still some work there. And if you're going to, bear the brunt of that, it's a lot. And so just knowing that up front, and then also maybe explaining to your players, like, hey, if there's stuff that you want help with, that's super appreciated, because we're trying to make something cool. So
yeah, even having that conversation up front, I think, is really important. I know that we all did. We had our first meeting, and we discussed, basically tackling this like it was a business venture, and knowing from the start that, we were going to have different roles, and but not obviously fully realizing how much time it was going to take. I mean, even things like recording prep, like that's a document that I put together for ahead of our recordings. And, we all have something that we need to look at or prepare for before each recording session.
Yeah. And sort of along the same lines of time management, I feel like my biggest piece of advice, and part of the reason why it's my biggest piece is because I just realized it for myself today, is that it's really important to, like, experiment with different, like, software and systems that you can use, and the different options that are available to you for, like, every part of the podcasting process. Because I just realized today, like, I've been with BTA for 4 years, and for all that 4 years, I've been using basically all the same stuff, and I haven't liked it for, like, 2 of those years.
Oh, no.
And so I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, but everything takes so much longer than it needs to, because I just haven't found, like, better stuff to use yet. So definitely that's some advice there, too, is find out what other podcasters are using and find out what they like so you can find something that works best for you.
Yeah.
Totally. I think we mentioned a little bit earlier about, like, finding that podcasting community. If you have friends that podcast, if you have a podcast that you like or is it around you and you want to reach out to them on Twitter and just kind of ask them questions. I mean, I learned a lot of stuff from Taz when they people have tweeted at them and asked them, like, hey, what software do you use? Or what do you use? And there are just, like, huge threads that they just kind of respond to that I just take notes on every now and then, because they're, willing to share that information and just take it and use it. And if it doesn't work for you, fine. It doesn't work for you, try something else.
Yeah. That was the really great thing about going to PodCon too. There was a lot of, like, very podcast specific information that we could draw from. And I think
we talked to a lot of people there trying to start their own podcast. Specifically D&D podcast, and we were just starting our own too. So it was kind of this really interesting time that we could kind of gather information, share what we had learned since starting, and so if you can find spaces like that, there's a lot of really awesome people you can talk to that have gone through the trial and error for you almost for some of the stuff that you're going to have to, get through.
Yeah, I reached out to King Falls AM, which is one of my favorite goofy horror podcasts, and asked them about their microphones just to triple check before buying my Blue Ball and or the Yeti. I mean, yeah, they were like, yeah, we bought that, and we've had the same mic for 3 years. So I was like, oh, clearly that's the one to get. Yeah. So yeah, you can reach out to people and
reach out to us. We'll answer stuff.
Yeah.
For you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Final question from Ken Jackson, who I think may have won this AMA episode. So tune again next year. Send in your questions. If your characters had access to a modern variety of bread, what iteration would be their favorite?
Do donuts count?
I think that's yeah, variety of bread. Absolutely.
So wait, donuts for who? Kat, you play 18 characters.
All your characters.
Yeah.
I think Daver would be tickled to make different types of donuts. He'd probably make a ginger one, of course.
I know Riot would definitely go Bonezerker crazy on some pizza rolls. So I don't know if a frozen bread that you can put in the near the mouth of a dragon and heat up, and there's which I guess that's not modern, is it? That's just empanada or meat pasties and whatnot.
Yeah, it's basically a dumpling.
Yeah, now we have to do a bread episode where we go back and see how far certain bread, when the first time. Thanks, Ken. Thanks a lot.
I mean, I think, Meris once rose to want French toast. I really want French toast.
Wait, did you say French toast?
French toast.
That's what I was going to say for Sildar.
Oh
my gosh.
Brunch buddies, yes.
After racquetball.
Yes, you get French toast.
Yes.
Protein and carbs. It's good.
Yes, it is good. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. It's fate.
That's amazing.
Jess, do you know who your character? We need you to work through it right now.
I think I feel like my answer is a little bit boring. Actually, I feel like Lariah would really like ciabatta bread.
Mm.
And that's mostly because I can always get down on some ciabatta.
Mm-hmm.
Although empanadas, I feel like are the real correct answer to this question.
That's
for everyone.
You could put anything in them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'm surprised no one said Pop-Tarts, actually. That was the only other thing I could think of. But I was I don't think Riot likes sweet things.
I think that could be Carp would be oh, what is that weird thing? And then would eat it and be I need more Pop-Tarts. Just become one of those super hyperactive kids who is just hopped up on sugar all the time, even more so.
Oh my God, yes.
Kat, can you say something is this the jammy dodger? Where's the hole? No, I can't even do his voice yet. Oh man.